Right, hi everyone, Hayley here. This episode is just going to come with a bit of a trigger warning. So, Charlotte Brindley is the sister of James Brindley, who was sadly stabbed to death in Aldridge back in 2017. As a result, the family and friends have launched the James Brindley Foundation, which looks at tackling knife crime, not just across the Midlands, but, everywhere. So please have a look at the social media links, which I'll tag in the stories on Instagram and which will be mentioned in the description of the episode. But please just bear with, because there's some emotional points within the episode and it can be quite hard listening at times. So just a little bit of a warning before we get started. Thanks. Welcome to Spin Justice with me, Hayley Owens, the podcast where I'll be talking about anything from health and fitness to the injustices of the world and everything in between. I've worked within the criminal justice system for over 20 years and have more recently taken to teaching indoor cycling, otherwise known as spin. Each week I'll be talking to a different guest about a topic that's personal to them, whether it be to raise awareness or just because. Most episodes will contain strong language because of who I am as a person, so if that's not for you, then probably best to swerve. Any opinions expressed by me are my own. Welcome, Charlotte Brindley.
Hello.
Right, so we've
Thank
not
you
met.
for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. You're very welcome. So we've not met until today. Obviously, we've had a good old chat and a coffee and things, but we've obviously been speaking for a while. Obviously, I contacted you to say, I could see the work you were doing with the foundation, and I thought it'd be a fantastic episode to get the awareness out. So I feel like we've spoken, and because you know me, I love a voice note. So you're probably every message you get from me, you're like, oh, here she goes again, a podcast offer. It's just easier for me to voice note, and then you reply with a text, and I'll send another voice note.
I didn't know, because my voice notes are always like a podcast.
Yeah,
so I was
fine.
like, she's probably not going to want to listen to that.
I do.
But
For anyone thinking I don't, I
Yeah.
do. Sometimes, like my mate sent me one last night, it was like 5 minutes, something long. And at the time I thought, I just don't have time now. So I listened to it this morning. But that's fine, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So how's your week been?
Yeah, it's been good. To be honest, I told you earlier, I'll tell you again.
Tell me again.
I quit my job about a month ago now to go full-time freelance, but actually more to work with the charity and get involved with that more, because, it was set up 6 years ago. And yeah, there's an awful lot to do, and it's grown very quickly, but they need more support, and especially on like the marketing side of it and things like that. There's a lot to do.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm doing, and also it's finding that kind of that purpose again. So
yes.
But yeah, though, other than that, week's been really good, stressful, busy. Trying to set myself up and get going, I guess. But
Has the snow impacted you?
yeah, to be fair, I moved to Nantwich in Cheshire 2.5 years ago, which was the best thing to do. So yeah, coming down today was quite hairy motorway, but it's worth it, isn't it?
It's been, I thought it this morning when I teach, I don't know if I told you this, I teach indoor cycling.
Is that why it's called Spin Justice?
Yes, yes. So basically, we'll come on to it, but I worked for West Midlands Police for like 20 years, and then I left in 2022.
Yeah.
And I've got another full-time day job, but as a sort of hobby, it started as a hobby. I started teaching indoor cycling, and it all came about because I had a back injury and I couldn't run and stuff like that. So the doctors were like, swim or cycle. Swimming was boring. So I started just going to all these spin classes, and I loved it. And some instructors I'd go to would be great and like really in tune with the music, and some wouldn't be so good. And with those ones, I'd think, I could do that myself. So I just took myself off, didn't tell anyone, just did a course and got this qualification. I was like, what shall I do with this? And it's just sort of grown over the last, it'll be 2 years in April. But I do 7 classes a week now. I know.
Fair play. You actually do give me spin vibes.
Spin vibes, yeah.
It's
so
great.
So basically, on a Thursday, we record the podcasts on a Thursday, but my day always starts with a spin class. So 7:15 at Nuffield in Rubery in Birmingham is where I teach my Thursday morning class.
Nice.
So, and the point of that was, when I checked the weather, I thought, it's going to be really bad in the morning, because it was like -3. So I got up a bit earlier and thought, I'm going to need to like take it steady, defrost the car. So when I got up, it wasn't actually that bad.
Yeah.
And I was there like really early. Everyone was like, I normally walk in like 5 minutes before the class is about to start. So yeah, I feel like we're in winter now, aren't we?
Yeah, but I feel like spin's the best thing for winter because it keeps you really warm.
Yeah,
definitely does.
I'm normally like ringing wet within like 5 minutes. I'm just drenched of sweat.
It's good. I do spin on a Thursday.
Do you?
Obviously up in Nantwich, yeah.
Oh,
I'd
love you to come to one of mine.
I'll definitely come. Yeah, definitely. It'd be really good.
I'd love you to. I say this to nearly every guest that comes on, right? Do a spin class. Go on, come and do a spin class. Some of them are like, absolutely not. And some of them are like, go on then, I'll give it a try.
It's savage, but it's fun. Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously we said we've not met before.
No.
But it's funny because I think our paths must have crossed back in 2017.
Yeah.
And that was because I worked for West Midlands Police at the time, and I was based on the homicide department, and actually arrived at work on the 24th of June, wasn't it? It was the following morning, so it was the Saturday. I arrived at work, 24th of June, and it was 2017. And I remember it because it was the day after my birthday. So my birthday's the 23rd, and that's why I always remember. It sticks, doesn't it, some dates. And I'd been on that team for about a year.
Yeah.
And so obviously dealing with murders that's all we did. So I arrived at work that morning, and from a work perspective, they said, there's a job in.
Yeah.
So it's happened last night in Aldridge. And so we then have to go into a briefing, and we're told, obviously, what's happened.
Yeah.
So, and pretty quickly, we were then deployed to go out into like Aldridge Village, like the centre, around the park and stuff, and do sort of like house to house and CCTV inquiries and stuff. So I would have been there that morning.
Yeah.
And then obviously in the weeks and months after, it would have been something that I would have been working on or as part of my daily job.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I guess we would have crossed paths at some point.
Yeah.
But not in a significant daily life. I wasn't your family liaison officer or anything like that. But certainly had got knowledge of what happened back then. So let's go back then, because not everyone's going to know what happened, because that's the whole point of this episode.
Yeah.
So do you want to say, or do you want me to say what happened?
Either or. I mean, I'm happy to go into it.
Yeah, please.
I might have to stop.
Listen, we've got the tissues ready.
Yeah, absolutely. They're tucked away.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, a lot of it is a blur. I think that's your body going into protection, isn't it, I guess? But, sorry.
No.
So I remember I'd been on a shoot that day, and I think it was in Staffordshire somewhere. Been texting James on and off, and he was working at the gym at the time. So previous to that, he'd set up a business. And he was going into it couldn't do many justice here, but it was a bit like PTing, but around the meal side of stuff. So doing like
meal
prepping, yeah, that's the word. And he was going into that, and he'd literally just set everything up, but he was working with the gym at the time. And I remember him messaging me. I'd literally just got back home. He messaged me saying, do you mind bringing me some food up the gym, because I'm not going to be back till late. And I was like, Jim, I'm really tired. I just want to go to bed. And it wasn't even that late. And he was like, oh, no worries, I'll see you a bit later. And I didn't see him at all that day. I knew he'd come home. Obviously, we're both living at home still. And I didn't realise he'd gone out. So he'd said to my mum and dad, I'm just popping down to, it was the Wetherspoons in Aldridge. I'm going out just to meet a few friends. He was going through a bit of a tough time with his girlfriend at the time as well. So he was like, I need to go and see my friends, just go and... James didn't drink. He didn't do anything like that. He was so body conscious and he was also really tight, which is a great thing. But he was just like, I'm not spending any money. I'll have a pint of water and slice of lemon, and that's that. So yeah, he went and saw his friends down the pub, and he'd obviously gone in and told my mum and dad, and they were like, yep, see you later, James, take care. I think they're the last words they said to him. And then obviously he went out, and then about 11:45 at night, I was in bed, and I kept getting loads and loads of calls from James's girlfriend, and because I knew they were going through a really tough time, I just thought she was ringing me to kind of talk to me about James, and I was like, I don't want to get involved. Anyway, it got to like, I can't believe I left it this long, but it got to like 10 missed calls on my phone. I thought something's not right, so I answered the phone, and she was screaming down the phone to me, James has been stabbed, James has been stabbed. I cannot even tell you the feeling that came over to me now. My heart is racing 10 to the dozen. It's mad, your body just shuts down, and I just was like, well, where is he? Where is he? It's on the Aldridge High Street. So I ran into my mum and dad's room. I was still on the phone, and I screamed what had happened, and I just put my shoes on and just drove up the village. And as I came round the corner, all I could see was just like a sea of blue lights, and I can see it so clearly in my head. It's mad though, because I feel like even though it was serious, in my head I was like, it's James.
He's going to be all right.
He'll be fine. He'll be okay. He'll get through it. He's so physically fit. He's so strong. He would never have got himself into that situation. He just wouldn't. He wouldn't.
Yeah.
So in my head, obviously the panic, but I was like, it's James. He'll be okay. He'll be okay. He'll be okay. Anyway, I abandoned my car and got out, and they'd obviously started taping everything off. And I tried to get underneath the tape, and somebody pulled me back and said, who are you? And I was like, I'm James's sister. I'm his sister. And then by that time, they said, you need to go and stand behind here. You know, they're trying to work on him or whatever.
Yeah. And could you see at this point from where you was?
I couldn't see what they were doing. I can just remember seeing, I knew he was lying on the floor. I could see like a drip or something, and I don't know. By that time, my mum and dad had pulled up, and were walking towards me. And again, like, even then, I'm shaking. Even then, you're looking for reassurance of your mum and dad.
Yes, yeah.
And like, I was looking to them for that, and just to see them the way they were, in complete like, just numbness. I can't explain it. Just numbness.
So were they with you at the cordon at this point?
They did at that point, yeah. Anyway, we must have been there for. They were working on James for well over an hour. I think they did. They had to perform open heart surgery, massage, and they did amazing. They did everything they could. They really did. And one thing that really sticks in my head is, so initially they came over and said, if he does survive, he'll be severely brain damaged. He won't be the same.
And was that, did they explain or go into that? Was that because of the lack of oxygen?
Trauma,
and
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I can't remember exactly. I don't think there was a lot of explanation, if I'm honest.
And if there was, you probably wouldn't have took it in anyway at the time.
No. And then, however long after, I can just remember the doctor and some other people, paramedics presumably, and the police walking over, and I can just remember him saying, do you want to tell them or shall I? That rings in my head so much. And they said he's dying. Sorry.
No, don't apologise. So at that point, you're still sort of stood behind a cordon watching everything take place in front of you.
Yeah, can't do anything, just shouting him.
Yeah. And when they said he's dying, presumably then, was he still alive at that point?
I think so, but he was unconscious.
Yeah. Unconscious, yeah.
But it's just helplessness, isn't it? Because you can't do anything about it. the only thing we could say was just shout, "We love you, James. We're here with you."
Yeah.
Anyway, they let us go over to him, and they let us go over to him and like say goodbye and stuff. And like nothing prepares you to see your family member, my brother, on the floor with his chest wide open, in a pool of his own blood.
Yeah.
It's just I just can't get that image out of my head.
No.
And I can remember my mum and dad were obviously with him, holding him, and they were like, sit with us, sit with us. I couldn't even sit with him.
No.
I couldn't sit with him. I couldn't look at him. I couldn't even say goodbye. I couldn't. I just literally sat on the floor, facing the other way, just in a heap, and I couldn't move.
Yeah. But, you know, that's like you said, that's a memory that you don't want to have, you know. You don't want that to be your last memory.
No, exactly. And I think of really trying for that not to be the memory of James, because he had such a zest for life, and I know everybody will say this about their siblings, of course they would, but he was the best big brother. He really was. He's so protective, and he's just so inspirational as a person, I think. Like, you know, he's wise before his years. It was like It was like an old man. Yeah. Really. You know, with the things he used to come out with, I'd be like...
How old was he at the time he died?
26.
26. And how old were you at the time?
22.
Yeah, so... And also, I mean, you obviously then, at that point, you know, you're remembering all the times growing up together, you know, and him being an inspiration to you and you looking up to him, all these things running through your head.
I think, one thing that people don't realise, I've never known life without my brother. Yeah. He's older than me. And I always looked to him for everything, more so than my mum and dad, actually. I'd tell him everything. He told me everything.
And I remember...
I can't stop shaking, I'm really sorry.
Do you want a blanket?
No, it's because I'm just going, like, everything is going back. I just can't, like...
So, you know, at the time, because it's not normal practice, is it, to allow people into the cordon? Obviously, because that's a scene. So it's... Yeah, it wouldn't be something, you know, that as normal practice, but obviously...
Yeah.
You're there, he's there, and I remember the SIO of the job at the time, or the person that was on nights at the time, made that call to sort of, you know, let you in and say goodbyes, which is just tragic, you know. But then, at what point? Because at this point, I'm guessing you ain't got a clue what's happened, because you're in bed, your mum and dad were in bed, he's gone out.
I didn't know he'd gone out. Yeah. Because one thing that I missed out was when James's girlfriend was ringing me. I initially went into his room and was like, Jim.
You thought he was in?
I'm being called.
Yeah.
And I said, why is she ringing me? And then I was like, Jim. And I put his light on and he wasn't there. Yeah. And that's what triggered me to think, okay, right, I'm answering the phone.
So when you got the call, I'm guessing that all you know at this point is he's been stabbed. You don't know anything else. Half because I'm guessing that she didn't know, because she was on, you know...
She was in Manchester, yeah. So yes. I don't... to be honest, it hadn't even gone through my head. It was only when... I think it was one of the police officers on the night started talking about it being a murder investigation. It hadn't even entered my head that was a thing. Just, what? It's Aldridge. Yeah. It's, you know, a small village. Yes, it can happen anywhere, but it just did not... even now, I can't compute how it's happened. Yeah. Like, I really cannot. And to James, and the fact that he didn't know them, they didn't know him. It was an opportunistic, you know, a tragic... it was a tragic, you know...
Just a pure... I would say this is a classic example of wrong place, wrong time. Would you?
I don't agree. No. I think they were in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah, someone is in the wrong place at the wrong time.
James wasn't. All he was doing was walking home. The amount of times we've done that. He didn't drink. He wasn't under the influence of alcohol. Nothing. Didn't do that. But, you know, in the fact that they were there, they were looking for trouble, and he happened just to been an innocent passerby walking home. I don't think he was in the wrong place. It was them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with that then, can you sort of like remember the events that sort of unfolded from that night? So like, at what point did you go to the hospital, or did you go home, or at what point did you sort of...
We went home.
From there? Yeah.
Because initially, I mean, when they said we're going to try and get him into the ambulance to get him to QE, you know, we were prepared to go into the hospital. But then obviously he passed away.
Sorry.
Don't be sorry. Yes, you're just giving me some love, aren't you?
Yeah.
I need it. Thank you. Yeah. We obviously went back home. Sorry, I'm just trying to remember everything. As I say, everything's just like a massive blur. Yeah. Yeah, so we went home, and there was obviously the police were with us, and by then James's girlfriend and her family had come down. It feels like it wasn't real.
Yeah.
I don't know what's real and what's distorted anymore.
Yeah. And I bet some of it is actually, you can't remember it, yeah?
I can't. I think part of it is your body's way of protecting you, isn't it? Because that's so traumatic, what we just witnessed. But I do remember when everyone was sat in our lounge, and me and my dad went outside, and I went with him, and he was just... I've never seen my dad like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, and the day after, we were obviously... I can't remember if it was the day... No, it wasn't. So the day after, we had to go and tell the rest of our family before it got out in the media.
Of course.
So we obviously had to drive to my grandma and granddad's house, my uncle's, and then we had to drive all the way up to Cheshire, because that's where my dad's sister lives.
Oh.
And I can just remember...
Who did that drive?
My dad. I don't know how he did it.
No.
I don't know how he did it.
Yeah.
And like, I can just remember my auntie. She was literally drawing the curtains, because we obviously went really early, and I can just remember her face at the window, and she obviously knew something had happened.
Yeah.
I cannot eat like that. Just, it's haunting. I'm going off again.
Because let's face it, someone turning up at, you know, early hours of the day, I'm guessing you've had no sleep at this point.
I can't remember.
Because it was quite late at night, wasn't it? It was like 20 past 10 or something like...
When it happened, I would say it was more... possibly.
Do you know what's in
She
on
does.
the convo?
I think she knows this is a hard topic for me.
Yeah.
I do, but... Yeah,
Good girl, ain't you? What's this? Oh,
yes,
easily
I'll have
distracted by
snacks.
food. Yeah.
That's standard, isn't
Like
it?
me. Yeah, so, you know, sort of having to tell family members, and then, like you said before, because the news is quick now, isn't it? I mean...
I can remember one of my friends messaging the group chat saying, what the hell has happened in Aldridge?
Yeah.
I couldn't not tell them, because they were going to find out anyway, and I had to tell them over WhatsApp.
Yeah.
But
it just spreads like now, especially with Facebook and camera phones and stuff. It just travels fast, doesn't it?
Yeah. But I felt me, chronic people pleaser, but I felt like I was having to protect everyone else, because like my friends and everything, they just couldn't. They were in such disbelief. Sorry, I'm literally shaking like a leaf.
And then I suppose as well, like protecting your family, your mum and dad, you know, because you're trying to be there for them.
Absolutely.
Then, like you say, your friends, you need your friends.
Yeah, and my friends, like, my friends are amazing.
Yeah.
My one friend Chloe, like, she's been there from like day dot, and I've never had to ask her. She's just there.
Just a true friend.
She's incredible.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just that I remember we had to get in the car. It must have been a couple of days after. We were taken to the hospital, the
mortuary.
And that's it.
Yeah.
And that was awful as well, obviously. But I can just remember, I had no emotion, Hayley. I just was so numb. And I can just remember sitting there. I let my mum and dad go in first, and I was like, I want to go in on my own. And the lady that I was sat with, I think she was our liaison officer at the time, but she got moved, I think, and within a week after. And she was sat there crying, but I couldn't cry. I was just literally staring into space, and she couldn't get her head around what had happened. And I'm like, the fact that a policewoman's crying. And I know when I went in and sat with him, and it's a picture that you shouldn't see your sibling like that or anybody, but just seeing where they've had to do the post-mortem on him and just open him up, stitch him back up, and it's...
Because in the chapel arrest at the mortuary, and I'm guessing, would it have been in Coventry at the time? Because the forensic post-mortems that West Midlands would use would sort of be that way.
Yeah.
And the staff are fantastic there, and the chapel arrest is a nice setting. I think it's a really peaceful setting, and they do their best in terms of making them look as peaceful as possible.
And he did, but it's just...
But it's not what you know, you're going to see, like you've just explained. Now, bearing in mind the previous memory you'd had of him, which had been a couple of days earlier, which you don't want to have that memory. So in your head, you sort of want a better memory than the last one you've had. But at the same time, it's still, it's not great. But at that stage then, and that, that response that your body there, not crying, I think it's quite a normal response from some people. Everyone reacts in different ways. So I've been in that situation, like you say, from a family liaison perspective, where I've been with families that have, completely broke down, wailed on the floor, and that's their response, and that's fine. And then I've been in some situations where it's been, almost quite hardened, but that's fine as well, So, and the fact that the police officer at the time that you were with has got upset because she's obviously looking at you as a family and the circumstances of what's taken place. And it's hit her. Yeah. And we're all human, that's fine. But from there, this is the start of an investigation now, obviously, isn't it? So those early stages when you'd have gone to the mortuary and done an identification of James, that's, we're at the start of an investigation now. So from June 17 to January 18, that's right, isn't it?
Yes.
Is a 6-month investigation.
Yeah.
And how was that for you and your family?
It's almost like it's been sped up, but it's frozen at the same time. And that is such a weird way of putting it, but that is the only, it's the only way I can describe it. It's like you're literally looking at yourself, looking in on what's happening at yourself. Yeah. That it's bizarre. Yeah. Again, I cannot remember. Do you know what? I think at the time I was doing my undergrad still, and my degree was 4 years, and I had to go into university with my mum and dad and tell them obviously what had happened. And my God, they were amazing, but they weren't expecting that to come out, And there was a point where I was like, do I defer my degree? Do I just stop altogether and jack it in? And, there was a part of me I was like, I cannot do this. But then on reflection, I actually thought, you know what? It's probably the best thing at the moment that I do it and carry on and finish my final year. I'm so glad I did. And I don't know how I did it, genuinely. I was working, that was my focus, and then even through the trial I was still studying, in those breaks in the family room I was studying.
Oh my God.
Came out with a first. I don't know how I did it.
Done.
I don't know how I did it.
We had one of my friends was on an episode going back quite some time now, and it was an episode on mental health, and basically she talks about she was a police officer. She's not anymore, but she says she was in a car accident where she was in the police car as a passenger, and a pedestrian was hit and suffered life-changing injuries.
Yeah.
Now, her response to that was to tackle it head on and go onto traffic. And I think we do these things where, like that was her response.
Yeah.
This was your response. Throw yourself into your uni
had
work.
to, yeah.
And I think maybe you needed a focus.
I think I needed something that felt real.
Yeah.
As well.
Right, so at that time, so we're from the June to the January.
Yes.
We've got things that I want to talk about, which I think only people that have gone through this type of grief, or all types of grief, will get, because you've got to come across the firsts. So the first Christmas with that James, the first birthday, any special occasion where you then, it's like, it might be like a celebration as such in terms of a Christmas, but because that's what it is, year in, year out, but then it's not. How did that feel?
Horrendous.
Yeah.
It still does. I know that when people say, and I'm going off on a tangent here, but when people say time's a healer, it's really not.
No.
You learn to cope with those things. It never will get any less, or it's just it just feels different. But yeah, in terms of Christmas, I think that first Christmas we had after was we had all of our family down. And I remember my cousins all being together, and I've got 3 cousins, 4, including Ben, but on the other side of the family. But I can remember them all just like being siblings, which they are, and I'd never change that, and I love them to pieces, but I can just remember having to take myself off and go and sit in the other room because I was like, I don't have that anymore. And it wasn't an envious thing, it was a complete like distraught,
Yeah, you're sort of there looking at them just, as they normally would.
Yeah. And obviously everybody was feeling it. Everyone's different, feeling different about what's happened and stuff. But yeah, that really struck a chord with me. And I can remember my auntie coming in and just sitting with me. And she didn't say anything, but she obviously knew. She just came and sat with me for ages. We didn't talk. We just sat there.
Yeah. What month is James's birthday?
March
17th.
So, yeah.
So that was after the trial, or mid-trial, was it?
Yeah.
So we're talking 9 months on.
Was it? I'm just trying to think. The trial was
Jan.
3 weeks. Was it 3 weeks?
Oh, okay.
Or 4
So the trial's
weeks?
done then.
Yeah, I think so.
So, because it's these things that I learnt really from working on that department and working with grieving families.
Yeah.
That the first wasn't something I've not had to experience it, but it was something I had to sort of almost prepare families for,
Yes.
like there's going to be these milestones that are now changed forever.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're never going to be the same again. Life's never going to be the same again.
No.
It's a new normal for everybody.
That's it. Your life is just turned completely on its head. 360.
Yeah.
For James's birthday, his friends basically hosted a party. It was a gathering to celebrate his birthday. And at midnight, they all did turned all the lights off, the music off, everything. Had all the torches. And while that was lovely, I can just remember feeling like I wasn't present.
Yeah.
Just wasn't there.
Yeah.
It's weird because, well, it's not weird, but it's, everybody says, your mum and dad are so strong, you just get on with it, but you haven't got a choice. And I think we just dealt with things day by day. And James's birthday, yes, it was his birthday, but we just dealt with it because we had to. And the same with Christmas, same with Easter, same with, the anniversary. I would say that's worse than celebrating birthdays or Christmas. That day that comes around every year is it's the worst
Just
out
dread
of
it.
everything. Awful, yeah.
Just dread it coming round.
Yeah.
Because it's just a yearly reminder, isn't it, of the
Exactly,
absolute injustice
Carnage,
that's happened to your family.
Yeah.
And that's a natural response, man. Like,
Yeah.
that, you know, I get that.
Yeah.
As much as you can dread a birthday or a Christmas coming round,
Yeah.
you know, but like an anniversary, just a reminder.
Absolutely.
So, like, you don't live in that area anymore,
No.
do you? And
No.
is that the reason you moved, or
Part of the reason, a big part of the reason. I mean, it was work as well at the time, but obviously we've always been up there because my dad's family, they live up there. I've always loved it up there, but I cannot be in that area anymore. My partner Mark, his family still live in Aldridge, and we still visit, but I find it so exhausting, like mentally draining, just being there. And it's not the place's fault, but it's completely tarnished that for me, completely.
And that's like your childhood, your growing up, like
school, everything.
Yeah.
Friends, everything. Yeah. But yeah, no, I had to move. We had to move because I was.
Yeah. And again, I think a lot of people in that position, it's tainted, isn't it? You know,
Massively. Yeah.
And a constant reminder if you were to walk to the village.
Exactly. And one thing I will say, like I say, it's not the place's fault. It was a chance encounter, but everybody in that community pulled together. So and it was quite amazing to see, really, how lovely everybody is, and they still remember.
Yeah.
And
I remember one thing about that village, bearing in mind working across the West Midlands, some places are nicer than others.
Of course.
And when, you'd go out and do house-to-house or CCTV inquiries in an area where something like this has happened,
Sure.
sometimes you get, in some areas, you get a better response than others. And I remember that area. It was the first place that I've never been offered so much tea and cake. You know, like everyone was opening the doors, coming. Because we would have to obviously go through a process with every door we were knocking. And everyone was so welcoming and so nice. I remember, like, you know, being there till like 10 o'clock at night, some nights if I was on a late shift or whatever. And just, you know, like actually going, I want to have to go now because like, I've got to go and knock the next door. Do you know what I mean? Like, I could sit and chat all day, but I do remember that. And I remember the amount of flowers. I mean, it was just something like 600 and something bunches of flowers, or 500 and something bunches of flowers. I can't remember the exact number that were put down from the community that were just pulling together. So, nice place. Like you say, it's not the place's fault, but it's a constant reminder that...
Absolutely. I think... Do
you want to talk a bit about the trial?
Yeah, I'll try.
Yeah. So...
Yeah.
Which court was that in? Birmingham?
Yes.
Birmingham Crown.
Yeah.
So... Generally, they last, 3 or 4 weeks, don't they? And from your perspective, you would have been turning up daily, going, being searched or whatever, and then hanging around. A lot of hanging around, isn't there?
Awful lot of hanging around and having to be in the same vicinity as the defendant's family.
Yeah.
And, there was no remorse there. There was no... Honestly, it was the way they behaved, just generally, not even just towards us. It was disgusting. Really disgusting. I've never experienced anything like that in my life. And it was a lot to be there with your family and to be facing their family and, almost feeling like, we're the victims, James was the victim, and almost feeling like it was the other way around, how we were being treated. And it was just...
I know at Birmingham, because it's it's a really old building, isn't it? And
yes.
I know, like, trying to sort of like get a family room together. Did you have a family room?
Yes.
Yeah, so obviously you're doing your studying in there, weren't you? So like that's a bit of a saviour in some respects because you are given that privacy.
Yes.
And so you should.
Absolutely,
But I think like not all courts have got that.
No.
And you really, like, the family liaison officer should, I think, really be pushing for that, really pushing for the victims' families to be be given that private
Yeah.
space.
Yeah.
Like you say, we're all walking through the same entrance here. We're all sitting in the same communal areas. It's difficult, you know, at the best of times. So generally then, as sort of like trials go, you know, you have an opening, you have your evidence, you have a closing, you know, and then you're hanging around for a verdict. So, and all this time you're in the public gallery, presumably sat with the other family, and they're not big space. I mean, I know some courtrooms are bigger than others, but they're not huge spaces because, you know, you might have students that come in and observe, and you might have press that come in who tend to sit sort of somewhere else. But, you know, it's not a massive space. You know, you can't really distance yourself.
No, absolutely.
So that's difficult. You know, I would imagine that would have been really difficult for you as a family.
Yeah.
But how was it sort of like, you know, listening to the evidence and...
If I'm completely honest, I didn't go to all of them.
Yeah.
My mum and dad sat through it all. I didn't go to all of them. I didn't sit through the evidence. I didn't because I physically couldn't.
Yeah.
Reacting the way I'm reacting now, but I just... And it's not because I didn't want to be. I physically couldn't sit through it. I think...
And that's fine, isn't it? You know, because were your mum and dad coming back and telling you bits, or did you just not want to know?
No, I did. Obviously, I was there. I just didn't go in.
Right.
So I knew what was going on. I think it was also... I was so afraid of my reaction towards seeing them sat in that box as well. And the behaviour. And I think because we were told, you know, you're not allowed to cry, you're not allowed to show emotion, you know, you just need to sit there and take it.
I don't know about not crying. I mean, I can't control not crying.
We were told that you can't cry because then that's going to bias the jury. That's what we were told. And that's part of the reason why I didn't go into all of it, because I physically couldn't control my emotion. I know my uncle was told that he wasn't allowed in. A couple of James's best friend was told he cannot go in.
What was the reason for that?
Because of how highly emotional he was and how, you know, he was the last person to be with James.
Right.
And he was just the anger.
Okay.
You know, but just the fact that we were thrown in with that family and sat together, and I just remember sat with one of James's friends, and there was some, whether cousins or whatever they were, I don't know, brothers, sisters. I sat in front and they were all just laughing and WhatsApping, and I just couldn't. Also engaging with one of the brothers in the box, waving, like it was all just I don't know, like it was all an act. It was just, I've never seen I just felt like it was James' life mean nothing then. And it obviously didn't to them. It doesn't matter. And I could not imagine being like that. There was no remorse. There was no...
Yeah, and you're like thrown into this, you know, you're like been thrown into this situation. And I mean, having to control your emotions in situations like that, I mean, there's you know, we all like try and keep our dignity, don't we?
Course,
you know, and try and be dignified and stuff like that. Yeah, of course. But I mean, I know these trials are tough. You know, they're tough, like, regardless, because, like you say, there's some elements of the evidence that you don't want to hear it. You know, like I've been like, obviously present in these situations myself. They're not pleasant, but then in some respects, some families don't want to not know everything. You know, they really want to know everything that happened, and then some say, I don't want to know any of it, because it's then in your head then forever, isn't it?
Absolutely. But I think they constantly changed the narrative. They were constantly lying, trying to change what had happened, trying to put things on James. I think at one point they said that he had a knife on him. Absolutely didn't. He didn't even have a wallet on him that night. He literally just had his phone. Them trying to say that James was a threat to them. He didn't even know they were there. You know. they obviously were going out, both of them acting as together, but they went out to cause trouble, and it just so happened to be James walking home. You know, I can't see how James was a threat to two people looking for trouble.
Well, he was on the phone, wasn't he?
Completely unaware, walking home.
So when we're coming out to sort of like the end of the trial, or coming on to sort of like the verdict, and we don't have to talk too much about that, you know, we can if you want, but sort of like, I mean, listen, when someone takes someone else's life, you could be given 100 years, man, and that's never going to be enough, because you've lost your only sibling, you've lost your big brother, life's never the same for you anymore. It's never the same for your mum and dad. They've lost their son. No one should ever bury a child. So for that, there's never going to be a sentence that's big enough, in my opinion.
No.
You know, there's a big topic on, like, there's a lot to say on, like, sentencing guidelines and things like that.
Yeah.
But how did that make you feel? Sort of like how, you know, that day, and when it come round to the jury coming to their decision.
Complete and utter shock, if I'm completely honest. Obviously, the younger brother went down for 17 years for murder, but we were expecting the other to go down as well, and he didn't, you know, nothing, no assistance, nothing. I can just remember as well on that verdict, I mean, myself and my dad both did a impact statement. Again, don't know how we did it, but I needed them to hear what we had to say, and I'm glad I did. But I can just remember when they were reading it out, the anger when we came out, you know, James's friends, it was just, I mean, we went straight upstairs. We were taken upstairs away. And yeah, it was just carnage downstairs, apparently.
It's like a victim impact statement, or a victim personal statement, as they're sometimes called, is like the family's chance to explain how the incident has affected them personally.
Yeah.
How can you really get all of that down on paper? But obviously we have to try, or you would have had to try, to get as much of your impact and your personal opinion and side across to the judge. I mean,
it's interesting as well. We weren't allowed to say you. We had to say the defendants have done this, the defendants have done that. We weren't allowed to say you have impact, you know, what you have done to my brother. I wasn't allowed to say that.
Yeah.
And I remember, I can't remember all of it, obviously, so long ago, but towards the end of my impact statement, I said, you know, if it was the other way round and James had seen them in trouble, he would have gone straight to help them.
James was a good guy.
Straight to help them. That's what he was like. Never have let somebody something like that to happen to somebody else.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah. So how then did the foundation come about? How was that created? Was it an immediate thing that you wanted to do, or did it take some time?
I mean, we formed in November 2018, so I think it wasn't something initially that we were like, yes, we need to do this. Of course it wasn't. You know, I think it was something that probably fell out of what happened with the trial. But to also make sure that there was a legacy in James's name, I think, you know, to do good in the face of what's going on throughout the UK. Predominantly in the West Midlands, but throughout the UK as well, hopefully. Yeah.
So obviously the trials would have been like January. So that later that year, you know, you've probably had time to reflect and, you know, reflect on some of the injustices that you thought, no, this needs to change.
Definitely. I think, I mean, to be honest, when we formed the foundation, I'd actually, it sounds ridiculous, but I actually went to Australia because I felt like I needed to run away. At the time, I was like, I just want to go travel, and just, if I don't go now, I'm never going to go. But if I'm completely honest, it was because I just wanted to get out of the country. I just wanted to run away from it. You can't run away from your problems.
Well, when you come back, they're still there, aren't they?
Absolutely. But yeah, so I mean, it initially, so it was the Full Circle program, which is it's an accredited tool, and it's independently assessed as well. So initially, David and Sally, who are our 2 trustees, they approached, well, they wanted to do that, but the foundation is there to kind of fund that. Essentially, it's around making sure that young people who are at risk of offending or have offended, it's giving them that, or become entrenched in offending. It's reducing that risk and biding them time to kind of get them out of that circle.
Okay.
It's for professionals, trainers. I think the police even use it now as well, to educate.
Okay.
I'm not doing it a justice there. There's so much more to it, but I'm not the expert in it. We've got Aid, Lee and Nikki who work on that, and they are phenomenal. They're so good at what they do.
So how do you find the, how's the best way to put it? How or who is this delivered to? So is it someone that's in the criminal justice system because they've offended? Do they then fall into your...
There's an element of like referrals and things. So if they're at risk or if they're deemed a risk, I mean, Nikki goes to different schools and stuff, if the school contacts or whatever and says, I think we want to start delivering some sessions, or whether it's a one-to-one session or group sessions, that kind of stuff. But we are getting quite a few referrals now as well.
Yeah, so the referrals are going to come from the people, like the people that are using it, like the police or whatever. That's great.
But also mothers, that are concerned if they, not necessarily their children are, getting involved with anything, but they might be slightly concerned about their behaviours changed or something. That's the kind of the whole premise around it.
Yeah, and then I'm presuming that work can then be done with that individual, to try and sort of like reduce the risk of this or escalating.
That's it, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, there are kind of projects and stuff that I'm not allowed to talk about yet, but there's more to it, with the mental health side of stuff and that kind of thing. So, which is really exciting, and I think it is doing a lot of good. It really is, and I think I'm so proud that we've done this because, in the face of something horrific, we're doing good. Yeah. Hopefully we're doing good.
It will be doing good, and it's only going to get better.
Yeah.
It's only going to go on to do more good.
Yes.
And I used to say this quite a lot, but like, it's always a shame, isn't it, when you meet people through such sad circumstances?
Yeah.
It's like we've been thrown together here because of something tragic that's happened.
Yeah.
I used to say it to a lot of families that I'd meet. I'm like, because you've been mates with these people in other circumstances, you just gel with people and think, God, man, like they've just been dealt the worst, here. So, like, it is only going to do better because you're doing a good thing. It's like trying to raise awareness of, is it just knife crime? No.
Antisocial behaviour as well. Any form of antisocial behaviour. But I suppose the crux of it is around knife crime and things. I think the other kind of element to the projects that we're working on is the distribution and installation of the amnesty, like the knife bins.
Yes.
In Warsaw. So those have I was actually really quite surprised at how well they've been used. I mean, at the moment there's 4 installed across Warsaw, and there's 3 that are pending. I think the goal at the moment is to get 12 officially installed.
Just in Warsaw?
Just in Warsaw before we then expand into the Midlands. But obviously you hear about all these sorts of knife bins and things being installed, but the difference here is that people can report anonymously through the website. There's nothing around, the police aren't spying, nothing like that. If they're concerned or, feel like there's certain people that carry a knife or feel that there's a change in the community, they can go and do that online anonymously. But when I was told, I mean, it was only week or so ago, I was told that the one of the bins had been really well used, and I don't know why, it just really shocked me.
Yeah. So where are they placed, situated?
Oh God.
In public places?
Oh yeah, on high streets and things like that.
Right. Oh, that's fantastic.
I'm in my dad's the driving force behind all of this. He's fantastic. But yeah, really well used. And I think the idea as well, hopefully, is that young people engage with these bins, but also through like the app or whatever it is, that they have their own perspective on what's actually happening in the community, their perspective on knife crime or antisocial behaviour, and then that will then inform how we can make change in communities. So it's a collaborative thing. It's not just us making the change in the police, it's the community, and it's the young people that, it's they're growing up there.
Oh, and it's just getting worse.
Yeah.
And like I'm guessing then it would be like sort of a mechanism where you can put something in and like you can't take anything out, but they have to sort of be emptied like accordingly.
Yeah, we have to have, I can't remember the official name, but we have to have like reps essentially that will go together.
Yeah.
2 people who will empty.
She's just got to get a face in, hasn't
she? She has, but she's so beautiful.
So, yeah. Okay, so is there any like big parts that you want to really get across with the foundation? Is there any like anything we haven't discussed in terms of like the driving force? I know you said your dad's the driving force of the knife bins.
Yeah.
We're looking at referrals, we're looking at antisocial behaviour and mental health potentially as an upcoming.
Yeah.
Because let's face it, some people can sort of like, I want to say, fall into the wrong crowd.
Yeah, they can.
They can.
Yeah.
But like sort of, there's got to be, that we spoke earlier, sort of an element of sort of like background. So people that are suffering certain conditions, is that going to have an impact on how they behave, or whether that could play out
definitely
in terms of their offending? So I think it's fantastic, approaching all things like that.
Definitely. I mean, that is the main part of it. I suppose for us it's really just kind of getting out why we do all the fundraising we do. And I mean, David and Sally and Nikki's partner Scott, they just climbed Mission Everest. They just climbed Everest in the campaign, which was really awesome. They did really well, to be fair. I think we raised just over £5,000 for that. But all this funding isn't, it's going towards these projects that we're trying to build, the new projects that I can't talk about, and then the Full Circle programme, referral. It all links, and it's just, I'm really proud.
So the fundraising, it's supposed to be a big aspect, isn't it?
Yes.
Of trying to fund, because it's a registered charity. Yeah. So obviously, then there's got to be, you've got to make the money somehow.
Absolutely, yeah.
So and how often do you sort of run a fundraising project?
I mean, we do to be fair, I mean, originally when we first started, we were doing it all ourselves, but there's been a lot of people that are actually going, I want to raise money for this, I want to do this, I'm doing this event, but money's going towards the foundation, which has been brilliant. I would say, I think we're probably trying to do events now that are a little bit more, they're bigger as opposed to little ones now.
Like the Everest.
Like Everest. Yeah. We've got, I think there's celebrity football.
Oh, I know.
Football. Have you seen it?
Yes, I've seen it. Yeah.
Which is brilliant. I mean, so all these events, they're bigger events, but they have more impact. It's getting more awareness out there, and it's good. Fantastic. They're great to attend as well. They're really fun.
Yeah, I'll come to one.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you need to, definitely. But yeah,
we've talked about this previously. So basically, everyone that comes on, if they're trying to if they're doing something, or they're events such as this, or I go, I'll come. So my diary's ram-packed full anyway, and then I'm going, I'll come to that. So I'm busiest I've ever been. Yeah. Because any downtime I've got, I'm then going to all these events. Yeah. Which is good. It's raising awareness. It's good. It's fine.
Definitely.
So I would say, if anyone's listening and wants to do any sort of fundraising, that'd be awesome. What better than the James Brindley Foundation?
Thank you. Yeah.
Because some people want. Say if someone thinks I really want to get fit in the new year, or I want a goal, I'm going to do running, or I'm going to run every day for this many days, and wants to be sponsored or whatever. That's just an example. But do it for a charity.
Definitely. And to be fair, we for the last few years, we've not done it this year, but we've been doing the Wolf Run in Leamington. That's so fun. I mean, the first year we did that, I think we had 150 there was 140 plus of us that did it, that ran.
God.
And we were the biggest wave of runners that they had.
Oh,
and
no way.
That did really, really well.
Yeah.
So I do want to do something like that again, but it's the planning. As I say, previous to, well, now, obviously I'm hopefully going to be getting more involved long term, but there's just no time to do everything around.
And do you know what as well? When you're training for something like a walk run and like you say, event planning, things like that, you know, when it's done, there's such a relief, isn't it? Because you've got a bit more time back, because it does, you have to dig deep, don't you?
Yeah.
So I get what you mean. It's like having the time and the energy sometimes to, you know, go for that again.
Yeah.
So they're not easy things to do or run.
Not at all. With the amnesty bins, the knives that we do collect, the idea is that we melt those down, and then the young people can kind of choose with us, collaborate with us, and there's going to be a piece of artwork made and installed. I think it's in Warsaw.
Fantastic.
But they get to kind of choose what they actually want to see.
Yeah.
So another way of engaging them. So yeah.
And getting young people involved.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And do you know what? There has, again, surprisingly, there has been a huge amount of engagement from young people, and the fact that they feel safe as well when they're talking with the foundation, and they have got somewhere to talk to professionals. But if they don't want to talk to a professional, they've got people that can listen. And they don't feel like they're gonna, the police are gonna get involved or anything like that.
Yeah, because I think that probably does put some youngsters off.
It would, for sure. Yeah.
They think, I'm gonna get into trouble, or I'm gonna, Yeah. So that's quite great, really.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
So what's next then? I know you've got stuff you can't talk about, but is this obviously I've been watching the socials. I'll continue to do so. So is it just to drive the fundraising and get this out there? Big. I'm hoping you're going to say, let's go beyond Warsaw.
Oh, that is the goal.
Yeah.
Yeah, Midlands and beyond, hopefully.
Yeah, because see, I'm like the other side. I'm Northfield, and it's happening everywhere. So as much of these charities and initiatives that can come up, I think can only be a good thing.
Oh God, yeah, definitely. Yeah. But I think it's about making sure we're all singing from the same hymn sheet.
Yeah.
These charities are all popping up, but really we need the same goal. We need to be working on the same thing, and to achieve the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think it's fantastic.
Thank you.
So, the part of the show, we have something called Spin Justice of the Week. So it's a feature that we do every single episode. Now, I said this to you in the brief that I sent out, because sometimes they are quite light-hearted and sometimes they're a bit more serious. People can have a rant. It's fine. It's whatever you want to do. And I did say to you, I feel like the topic of this episode is an injustice in itself.
Oh, massive.
The fact that you've lost your brother, and the fact that you're... It's just those things that other people might not necessarily think about, or they might when they give it some thought. But, I was just sat when you were chatting, and I was thinking, for your parents, when you get married. Yeah. Are you married yet?
No, next year.
Yeah.
Next May.
So that's going to be such an emotional time, because it's such 100%. A joyous occasion that you're getting married.
Yeah.
But it's so tainted with the grief and the sadness that James isn't there.
Yeah.
And then, you go on to have children. Mm-hmm. James is missing out on this stuff. He's missing out on getting married. He's missing out on watching you get married. He's missing out on nieces and nephews potentially, and having children of his own.
100%.
So things like that, believe me, that's an injustice, isn't it? I feel like that is, But is there anything that you want to talk about in terms of the foundation, or anything you want, that you feel like you want to be your Spin Justice of the Week?
I think I know I spoke to you earlier about the whole truth thing and the lack of truth thing, and not knowing what happened, why it happened. Yeah. I think that is a massive thing for us. I think people just think we're going to go away and not, we are always going to be continually fighting for the truth of what happened to James. We will never stop that. There's got to be someone that knows something. I think that in itself is a massive injustice, that we don't know what truly properly happened because of the lies that were, I think, again, I don't know how much I can go into this, but I think the whole law around joint enterprise, is it?
Yes, it is, yeah.
How that works, you know, we were initially told that it's looking that they'll both go down because they were both involved in one way or the other, whoever it was. And yet
it didn't happen.
They couldn't prove joint enterprise, which is baffling with what the evidence that was dealt at the time. Like, it's just,
Have you watched, I'm just going a little bit off here, have you watched a programme called The Jury?
No, I think my mum and dad have. Yeah.
So watch it.
Okay.
So basically, it's an experiment based on real life events. So it's a real life case delivered to 2 juries.
Yeah.
So exactly as the evidence would be relayed to one, is relayed to another.
Yeah.
And it's following the 2, and they don't know about each other, by the way. So say, let's just get, I don't know if this, because it's been a few months since I watched it, but let's just call them the red jury and the blue jury.
Yeah.
The room that the red jury are in is videoed, and so is the other one, right? So all the conversations that take place in that room and that room are all videoed. It's on telly. I want to say it was, I can't remember what channel, so I won't say.
That's all right.
if you searched it, you'd find it.
Yes, yeah.
But it's an experiment. I'll tell you what, I was hooked. It's not very long either, but basically it gives you a real perspective of how not only the evidence is received, but how, because let's face it, the jury rooms are private.
Yeah.
You know, they can't talk about it. Majority of the time, we're never going to know what happens in those rooms.
No.
So I believe that's probably why this experiment's taken place. Anyway, they come up with different verdicts.
That's mental.
And so the 2 different, and then at the end, they're told about the other about the other team or other jury, and they were like, "Whoa!" Like,
but they were delivered the same
evidence,
case,
on the same case. They were just in 2 separate rooms, and they come up with a different verdict.
Oh, wow.
Watch it, and tell me when you've watched it. And tell me what you think.
I will, absolutely.
Because I honestly was like, "Whoa!" Like,
it's just, how can that happen?
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. Yes.
The fate of what's happened.
Yeah.
You know,
someone, not only like justice for someone, but the fate of of someone relies in these hands. You know, like, it's mad. I'm well into stuff like that. You know, well, obviously, injustice is a big part of my life, right? So, it could be anything. Like, I'm that one at work in like the job I'm doing now. Like, I won't drop things. They're all like, "Oh, here she goes." But I can't stand it.
No,
if there's something that's an injustice, and everyone's thinking it, but no one says it, and I'm the mouthpiece that goes, "No, I don't quite believe that that's right."
I agree.
So I kind of feel like that was the drive for this podcast, to be honest.
Yes.
Because
it's talking about these things.
I mean, don't get me wrong, all these episodes that we've recorded, some are, you know, as harrowing as what we're talking about now.
Yeah.
Some are really light-hearted. I had a comedian on last week.
Love that.
But, you know, there's always things to talk about. And there generally is an injustice somewhere along the line, you know. It doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
But that was my thought process for coming up with it, because of something going on out there. Because of the way I am, I can't drop it.
No, I can't let it go.
I can't leave things, and I feel
exactly the same.
Yeah. They get sick of me at work. Well, everyone does. They're like,
I can't imagine that.
It's exhausting. Because it's what's right, isn't it?
Absolutely.
That's my problem with fighting for what's right.
Yeah, definitely.
And I don't like it, and like getting into the politics of things really like gets to me.
Yeah.
Because we're at the bottom, aren't we? We haven't got a voice. We haven't got, and for so many years I've just been sort of like brushed under the carpet.
Absolutely.
And told to like no.
I completely agree. And I think prior to James, what happened to James, I probably would have shied away from talking about that kind of stuff. Yeah, absolutely. But now I'm like, come on then, let's have a discussion about it. Let's have a debate. Yeah. Because there's all sorts. You could go on all day, couldn't you? But
yeah. Well, my spin justice of the week is it's a little bit more personal, but my mum and dad are in their sorry, mum and dad, but they're in their late 60s. Mum's just getting her bus pass.
Oh,
she's over the moon. But they've had to go back to work.
Really?
Yeah, so like they're at retirement age, you know. But the fact of the price of everything that's gone up, just to just to enjoy luxuries in life, holidays, and you know, just your general luxuries, they've both had to go back to work, and that boils my piss, man, because I just think like they're getting on. They're, you know, the next milestone is 70.
Yeah.
You know, when I had my kids, they were younger. They could help me look after them, you know. Now my brother's of an age where he's got younger kids, you know, like the youngest just started walking. I'm noticing that they can't cope as much, you know, like when he's running around, or they get tired more, things like that. And then to the fact that they've had to go back out to work, both of them, not just one of them, it just gets me so angry because, like, I speak to them obviously daily, and I'm like, you know, they're getting up at 6, 7 in the morning to go out to work. And
full time as well?
No, so but basically what it is, they do this pupil guide thing.
Okay.
So for children that need to get a taxi to school, they have to have someone in the taxi with them. Yeah. So they both do it, but they don't do it together. So like a taxi will come and pick my mum up, and then a taxi will come and pick my dad up, and then they'll go off and pick the children up and take them to school, and then do the return journey in the afternoon. So it's like a couple of hours of a morning, couple of hours of an afternoon, and it's term time. Fine. The pure fact that they're even having to do it because of the way things are, you know, the heating bills, and without it, they wouldn't be able to go on holiday. Yeah. And that, for me, when they've worked their whole life, they've brought a family up, you know, and now...
it's insulting, isn't it?
Yeah. So this week I was thinking about what my injustice of the week would be, and I was on the phone to my mum, and sure, I've got a new run, because you get like a new contract, you see, because kids might change schools, or, you know, you might be with one child for so many months and then it might swap, whatever. So she's got a new run, as she calls it, but it's further away. So she's up at 6 now to get picked up, to get to, you know what I mean? And I'm like, what's this about? Yeah, I know. So that's mine for this week. It's just really like, I mean, I've thought about it at the time they started doing it. It was probably, well, it's been a while now, over a year. But at the time they did it, I was like really enraged about it. Yeah. I was like really angry at the fact that my parents were having to go back to work in their late 60s just to afford life. So that's mine, really. Nothing's going to change. That me saying that's not going to change anything, but the fact that I've put it out there. Absolutely. Do you know what I mean? So then we have a shout out. So if you've got any shout outs for anyone that you feel, you know, deserves a shout out for whatever they're doing. It could be a small business, it could be someone in the foundation, it could be anybody.
Can I have a think? Because there's probably a lot of people.
Yeah. So mine is my friend Jenna. So she's a dog walker.
Oh, amazing.
So she was made redundant, right?
Yeah.
After 24 years working for a business, for a company she worked, and she was made redundant. And she said to me, I really want to start working for myself. And she was like thinking of a few little different things, and she went into dog walking. She's living her best life.
I can imagine.
You know, just like, and you know what? She's just started from nothing. Yeah. And just driven it herself. And before you know it, I tell you what, when you push something like that, like you'll see with the foundation, no doubt, when you don't stop pushing for something, it just snowballs, doesn't it? Yeah. So then, you know, social media and the power of social media now.
Oh, yeah.
She's walking 8 hours a day. She's the fittest she's ever been. Not crying in the snow.
No, well, exactly.
Although she loves it, I don't. Yeah. So, like, you know, she's putting videos on yesterday and the day before of all the dogs that she's walking, just having fun in the snow, and it's just fantastic. And just, she's really passionate about the animals as well. Like, it's, you know, it's not just a job. Yeah. I've had her on the phone to me in tears, you know, about, you know, I've seen this today, I've seen that today. And it's, I can see the place of love that she comes from. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I think she deserves a shout out. So, like, South Birmingham areas, if you're looking for a dog walker, Juno loves her. Walk This Way, she's called.
Oh, that's awesome.
Walk This Way.
I love that.
So Jenna at Walk This Way, that's my shout out for this week.
That's amazing. She's the cutest thing.
I don't know.
She's
hello. Resting bitch.
Resting bitch. I think, I mean, obviously I would love to shout everybody out that works at the foundation. Yeah. There's a lot of people, but the main people, obviously my dad, my mum, Joe, Ali, David, Sally, Nikki, Hayley, they're all amazing.
There's loads
they are just the best people.
Yeah.
And they genuinely care about what they do, and they genuinely care about making a difference. And I don't think I know we wouldn't have been able to do what we are doing now without them.
The world needs more people like this.
Oh, yeah.
And there's so many of them out there, you know.
Oh, yeah.
So many people.
It restores your faith.
Yeah, it does restore your faith in humanity, because it is that minority that let the side down.
Completely.
It is. Generally, the population are lovely. It's just that small percentage of arseholes that are out there that ruin it for everybody else. I genuinely do believe that, because, you know, I've met a lot of people over like my working life and stuff, and you know, you might go into areas and think, oh God, like, and then you'll knock on a door and expect auntie, and they'll open the door and be lovely, because people generally are nice, good people. Yeah. Just that very small percentage out there. So yeah, big up the James Brindley Foundation and everyone that's working. Got any more?
Yeah, I have actually. And I've literally just thinking about this. I think I'd like to shout out all the bereaved siblings, because that's something that I feel quite passionately about, because it's one thing losing a son or a daughter. You know, my mum and dad, they're amazing. They are incredibly strong people and driven people. But I think sometimes siblings get forgotten. There's a lot on the parents. Yeah. And I think that's so important, that the rest of the family, the siblings that have, you know, the bond that you have with your brother or your sister is immense.
Is there anything out there? Is there any charities or organisations to look after bereaved siblings?
I don't know, but I mean, it's a good point. I mean, I wrote an article, back when I was doing, uni. It went in the HuffPost about it, and I interviewed a couple of girls, Alicia Asprey, who lost her brother Regan in the November after James was killed, and then Jade Coombe as well, whose brother, she was in Manchester way, whose brother was murdered in, it was Hayley. Okay. So I interviewed them, but that was quite powerful, because I think it's something it's not discussed enough. No. And I just want to shout everybody out. Yeah. Because I hear you, I see you. Yeah, and you know what? Like, if there isn't, there should be something. You know, there should be something out there. Yeah. You do, you know, the charities and stuff that I've worked with in the past for bereaved families are great. Oh, yeah. But yeah, you're right there, because I've got a really close bond with my siblings. I've got two brothers, and I don't even know. I don't even want to go there. It's, you know, a hole that I can't even begin to, let alone feel. I cannot describe how it feels to not have James in my life anymore. Yeah. Well, physically. Yeah. We're going to stay in touch, and I'm going to follow everything you're doing. I'm a massive supporter of it. Come into your spin class. Oh, please come to my class. Yeah. So thank you very much. Thank you for having me. I've really enjoyed it. Yes, me too. It's been hard, but I've really enjoyed it. Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Carl.
Right then, that brings us to the end of Series 1. Thank you all so much for listening, following, subscribing, liking, sharing. I appreciate each and every single one of you. So next week there will be a roundup of Series 1. There'll be a Christmas special released the week after, and then we're going to go straight in with Series 2 on the 3rd of January 25, kickstarting your year with financial planning. Any sponsors that want to get in touch, we're building up a sponsorship now. There's packages available. Please email at the email that's going to come up next, or get in touch at Instagram at SpinJustice. Thank you. If you have a topic that you want to discuss, get in touch at b31spinjustice@gmail.com or via Instagram at SpinJustice.